Thanks for the introduction. So, as you mentioned, I'm Eric with Lenovo, and I'll be talking about the XR hype cycle and kind of the new normal and how Lenovo's new solutions will really help accelerate adoption in the enterprise going forward. So, a little bit about myself. As mentioned, Eric Mizufuka. If you want to follow or engage with me at Twitter, I'm at WT Eric. I'm a partnerships manager at Lenovo overseeing commercial AR and VR. And some fast facts, I've been in the AR glasses business for over 10 years now, surprisingly. Actually was at the first Augmented World Expo, which was the augmented reality event. And my first AR B2B kind of real demos that were real eye-opening for me were back in 2012 at ITSEC with partners Scope AR and at the time Upscale, who was Apex Labs at the time. And last fast fact is I cut my own hair for this presentation. So I'll be taking a step back and talking about the XR life cycle kind of pre-pandemic, 2012 to 2019. And this is, my personal view of where we were. A lot of it was really driven by investor dollars, and it was about driving kind of PR and proof of concept demos. So you kind of had this cycle where the investment dollars would come in, fund an MVP, get that sizzle video done, make a really cool corporate demo with the end result being kind of an interesting white paper. Oftentimes those white papers had very little substance in terms of true ROI or metrics. But what it did was it funded more investment dollars into it. So it was kind of a rinse and repeat cycle. While not sustainable, clearly, there were some really cool things that came out of it. I think those of us in the industry learned a ton in terms of deployment requirements. So on the hardware side, whether it was ANSI safety requirements, how to work and interact on hard hats or ATEX and intrinsic safety, certain requirements by industry. Learned a lot in terms of UI UX, whether that be gaze, voice, really how to present the data in a real usable way, because it really is kind of a new paradigm. We did also discover what those key use cases were, most importantly, that deliver value. And business models around those use cases, a lot of the ISV and solutions community have moved from kind of one-off custom projects to how to scale those projects and really lower the cost of content creation and build SaaS models around them. So it's really cool to see some companies driving real solid ROI for the end customers. And I think we really need to focus on those types of use cases and push them out. From a corporate planning perspective, I think the other thing that we're starting to understand from an industry is what those addressable markets look like by use case, vertical, and it's really going to help us with our targeting strategy about who we go after. And I think those of you on the call, in red here, I've got the most successful deployments were often the ones that aren't promoted, even to this day. So I think, having kind of leveraging those learnings and pushing the right use cases out to the right audiences, there's tons of ROI in this space for end customers. So the impact of COVID, obviously VR and AR investments are down kind of dramatically in 2020. So, we can't, as I mentioned earlier, we can't really rely on those investment funds. So how do we build a real business out of this? And on the upside, interest in remote solutions are way up. I've got Zoom on the right. However, speaking to folks I know in the industry, what I've heard is that existing clients are really scaling up the number of licenses that they have for HMDs, particularly for remote support applications. And this really started to ramp when global travel restrictions were put in place. And we're seeing a real ramp in manufacturing in particular. So really positive. And and directionally, what I've heard is that volume for this past quarter is up roughly 2 to 3x, quarter over quarter, in pretty close, maybe 1.5 to 2.5x year over year. So where are we headed? And what does this kind of ecosystem look like going forward? Obviously, you know, the game of it being an investor fueled, PR driven hype cycle is gone. And the real focus is how do we really streamline our operations from moving from corporate POC to deployment? And then not only that, but how do we really increase the rate at which this cycle happens? So of iteration and improvement. And, you know, I think Lenovo's goal of the Think Reality platform is really to leverage our global reach with our global accounts, our knowledge in the AR VR space to bring best in class solutions under our platform, vet it, run it through Lenovo's security. Obviously, you know, we're a trusted brand with all those operations in place to be able to accelerate adoption. So what are some of those hurdles to deployment, moving from POC to deployment? You know, there's many. And to be honest, I applaud all of you in the audience who are from innovation labs who have been able to get projects to deployment, because it's not just selling the solution and the ROI case to the business user. You know, I've seen IT security squash projects because the ISV is a startup and they don't have, you know, their D&B report is not up to par, or they don't have enough years in business to deal with this client. Things get really held up in legal. You know, as many of you know, the contract process is not easy, and oftentimes with these big companies, they just don't want to put a new MSA in place with some fresh vendors. So a lot of hurdles internal on the corporate side, but I think even more so, and something that us in the industry can address, is we've got a really fragmented ecosystem. So the XR ecosystem it's just wild to me. There are multiple hardware vendors. No single vendor manufactures all hardware types, even though the end customer may need. They've got, you know, some field workers that would need to wear glasses for 2+ hours, requiring a monocular headset. Whereas, you know, maybe the guy in the factory floor on the break glass in case of emergency production line use case, who would just put the glasses on for 10 minutes, but really needs kind of an immersive walkthrough of how to fix that piece of equipment, would need a mixed reality headset, versus a lot of your staff that may just be carrying mobile devices. So, you know, the ecosystem is not only fragmented from a hardware perspective, but also a tools and content creation perspective. It's insane to me that I've seen, even on some of the smallest jobs, an end customer for a deployment having to get at least 5 different licenses to enable the use case. So, you know, the goal of, as I mentioned, of Lenovo's Think Reality platform is on the business end, using our global enterprise sales team who's familiar with the accounts, who's already got great relationships with all of these groups up top, security, IT, security, procurement, contracts, the business units. They know how to build that business case. They know that business, that industry, and what the levers are to be able to show the value of our XR solutions to them. And that's just on the business side. But on the Think Reality side, where we're building out our integrated platform, you know, we are really looking to bring the industry up with us. So we're looking at a model of partnership rather than going at it alone. So we're looking to onboard, or we're kind of in the process of onboarding third-party hardware onto the platform that we can sell and support, as well as best-in-class, best-in-breed ISV tools. So the goal here is really for Lenovo to be a one-stop shop for XR solutions and really accelerate adoption by bringing those best solutions in front of our customers. So we're really kind of getting rid of all the friction from a sales and implementation and support perspective. What ends up happening is we're taking a lot of that cost structure as well off of the ISVs and absorbing it where we have a lot of kind of economies of scale. So what does our solution consist of? And I wanted to drop some logos in here just to call out some of our partners. I mentioned that from a partnership perspective, we are looking to have an open ecosystem and just really bring in best-in-class solutions. So we have an SDK. Obviously, it's Unity-based. Partners on the voice side, we've got Sensory, Gesture, we've got Clay Air, object and image tracking. We've got a great partner in Wikitude. Hardware, you can see we're using Loomis Optics. That team has been great, and they've really been in the industry since day one. I remember seeing them at CES 10 years ago, sitting at a 10-foot booth with just like the most amazing display module. So it's really cool to be working with them. And what I want to review now is kind of, if you look on the right, really that deploy and manage, the turnkey apps and solutions. So what is our model? I know we've shown kind of a lot of high level slides, but I wanted to dive in and really kind of give a detailed use case on one of our partners. So our first Think Reality certified solution with really deep hooks into our platform is Holo One. So Holo One provides workflow support, remote assistance, digital workspace, use cases that you guys are probably all familiar with. The real great thing about the Holo One solution is it does support multiple devices across the ecosystem, all the way from mobile to mixed reality devices. And their platform is really optimized for the A6. And what they've done is they've not only optimized their APK and their app to work with our SDK and our backend, but they've worked with us to actually port their entire solution onto Lenovo's architecture. So it is now hosted. What that allows from kind of an end customer perspective is for them to have a seamless experience when they log into Think Reality and they're using Holo One for their, say, remote assistance needs. And by being on our architecture, we can deploy this solution as on a private virtual cloud. We can deploy it on-prem. So that's a key thing with Lenovo on the customer side, is we can implement really quickly, and we're doing all the vetting up front. As I mentioned, from a trusted supplier perspective, a security perspective, and we are signing those contracts with the end customers to really accelerate the sell-in of the solution and really show ROI quickly. Because I think the world is changing, and solutions to be able to support kind of limited travel use cases are really picking up. So we're working with third parties to bring this to market. In terms of Think Reality certified solutions, kind of the value proposition is really, Lenovo's a trusted brand and partner. We're the #1 in the business for enterprise for laptops. So we've got all those relationships with the biggest companies, obviously a leader in servers and lots of different hardware. So, we're really already at those customers as kind of a solution provider, and, having back their security as well, big differentiator. From a customer perspective, also just one-stop shopping. Lenovo's been in the AR/VR business for, quite some time, and we've got a very long roadmap ahead of us. So we're really committed to the space, and we really can offer that global footprint of support where we really have feet on the street and resources there to properly support our accounts. So we're taking this business very seriously. And on the solutions provider side, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about, your solution, how it could work with Think Reality, because we are really in the process of ramping up, our supported solutions framework as well. So really appreciate the time, and I'd love to open it up to questions now.
So practical guidance on client value generation. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we have time for one quick question, which basically I wanted to do myself. Where do you see the low-hanging fruit on the XR application side for immediate enterprise adoption?
Gosh, we've seen the biggest pickup, obviously, in the post-COVID world with simple remote assistance and remote support applications. There has been kind of a need to support both headset and mobile devices. So platforms that can address both of those needs are seeing some pretty quick ramp up in terms of deployments.
Yeah, that's understandable. Okay, thank you again, Eric. We need to move forward.